Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to talk about the Warhammer The Old World map, as there were some updates to it yesterday, and the thing is, I just didn't really have time because I was streaming, and really I wanted to take a break from videos as I've not been feeling great. But this is big news, and I'm really excited because there's a lot to talk about. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the map. It's not going to be the best quality. Games Workshop seem to upload images on their website, which is like 2004 quality for some reason. But I've used an AI program just to kind of make it a little bit better, and we're just going to talk about a bunch of different things. So yeah, let's get started, shall we? So the borders of the Northern Wastes are still there, and nothing has been done to it just so far, but I'm hoping that this is where we're going to start to see a majority of different Chaos Warrior factions, some Demon factions, and so on, as lore-wise, we know it's mostly the southern parts of the Northern Wastes, you know, the shorelines and stuff is where we have some Chaos Warrior factions. We do have a lot in Norse, but I want to talk about Norse a little bit more in detail when we get to that section. So I would like to see some Chaos Warrior factions up north. I'd love to see some demonic factions. You know, the further up north you go, the more that reality twists and turns into the realms of chaos. And it's not impossible to say that some demons could find themselves tethered to the world through some things there, but they just wouldn't be the most powerful. So they would still be weak enough to be banished without too much of an issue, or if the winds of magic should change. But it's already looking pretty cool. Norska is looking incredibly fleshed out, and I'm actually really happy about this. So here we're supposed to be expecting, you know, Chaos Warrior warbands, but I am really hoping that we will see a Norska faction too. You know, either in the form of a supplement or its own army book, as, well, it's about time that it got fleshed out into its own culture, and you've got to take into account that we do have Norska as its own thing in Total War Warhammer, which must have had Games Workshop putting in some inputs. So imagine if we had like a Marauder faction, like we're used to in Total War Warhammer, something that a lot of people would have liked in Warhammer Fantasy, where not only would you have Marauders, but it'd be a great reason to bring back the Famir, and, you know, the Chaos War Mammoth would be great. Like, yeah, that should still be something for the Chaos Warriors, but I love the idea of just another faction just to add a little bit more flavor, and possibly with really good rules that you could freely mix between Norska and Chaos Warrior warbands, so you could have something really stylistic. This means that if you mostly play Chaos Warriors, it would be kind of cool if you could then decide, well, I want Chaos Warriors to be from Norska, so I'm going to mix up with that. And yeah, we had a similar system with the Alliance armies in Warhammer Fantasy, but I'm meaning just like, you get both books and you can soup them up really well. So you could use core choices from both, rare special choices from both, you know. This stuff would be kind of interesting. Obviously, we don't know the rule set just yet, but we could make an educated guess that we're going to have a similar system to army building that we used to have, so core, rare, special, lord, and hero. I really hope so, at least, because that's something that we all kind of are used to, and that system kind of worked out quite well anyway. Staying in Norska, we do have a little mention of the Norse dwarfs. The quality might not be great because I had to use an AI program to enhance this, but yeah, Norse dwarfs are still a thing, which is kind of important. I'd love to see some sort of supplement, because supplements would be kind of cool for a Norse dwarf army, as obviously a army book dedicated to them, I don't know if it would do really well. And if we're going to get all the races that we used to have, plus some more, because, you know, we've already had Kislev and Cathay confirmed, and there's reason to believe that we're going to get the Hobgoblins. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of different playable armies. I mean, you never know. Maybe Games Workshop are just going to go full ham with this because they realize that they kind of made a mistake and they just want to go through everything that they had planned originally, and like ideas that they had planned originally, and they just want to bring back loads of things. But I think supplements kind of work out well. You remember the whole Vampire Coast thing back in the day? Sure, it wasn't the best thing, but it's still something. And we had that with, like, you know, Storm of Chaos, dedicated armies and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy. Like, there is a lot of Norse dwarf holds there. Kislev, and this is something that we already know from a previous update, is quite large. It's actually larger than it was before, and we have 4 major Kislevite factions, the capital and then 3 minor ones. We don't know exactly what's going to be here, and maybe that's all kind of centered around legendary lords. I guess, well, Lord options, named characters, because we do have reason to believe that each of these icons is dedicated to a faction leader. And yeah, this all looks really, really good. Like, I am loving the idea of Kislev being larger, and the reason why it was so small compared into Kislev that we know in 8th edition lore and that of, you know, Total War Warhammer, for those of you who aren't really too well versed in the lore, is likely because Asavar Kul, you know, comes down and just smashes a lot of Kislev. It's an insane battle. Kislev, however, will start to feel smaller once we start getting Chaos Warrior icons and possibly Clan Moulder. I do believe Clan Moulder already had it by this point here, but it's likely that we're going to see it even if they didn't, because they'll probably want to just add in the icons to just say this is where the faction is, if you want to just build up your own fluff, that they already arrived, or that they arrived a little bit earlier. We still have that weird Hobgoblin Carnet type of logo, because it's not really a faction logo, it's just like, there's Hobgoblins here. And I don't know, I'm hoping that we will see something like a dedicated faction for them. Again, likely in the form of a supplement, as I don't think a full Hobgoblin army book is possible, but who's to say in the future? Like, we will likely see Hobgoblins because Chaos Dwarfs, and we're going to talk about the Chaos Dwarf stuff in just a second. But yeah, no, I mean, it's just nice that they're getting mentions. They're still in canon, and I think that's really, really important. The Darklands for now are empty. Funny enough, just like Warhammer 3, but I kind of expected this. I didn't think that we were going to get any Chaos Dwarf iconography just yet until we'd probably get it closer to that of Warhammer 3. Cross-promotion seems to work very well for Games Workshop and Creative Assembly, and they did that with Kislev, they did that with Cafe. So yeah, eventually when we see the Chaos Dwarfs being announced, I imagine that we'll start seeing it. Either way, the area is looking absolutely enormous, and I just can't wait to see what else comes from it, because I'm super hyped up. Chaos Dwarfs were an army that I always kind of admired, and the 8th edition army was just kind of brutal, so I'd love to see what happens there. Nothing's really changed with the Empire, and that's perfectly fine. There is one thing that we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's nice. Like, we've got Sutherland there, which is essentially the renamed version of Solent, and we've got the Moot, which is really, really, really curious. Mostly because, you know, Halflings, it would be cool if they had the supplement. I know I'm saying supplement a lot, but that, or they're just directly in the Empire army book, as they are part of the Empire. But just imagine being able to just meme it and say, yeah, I'm not going to go with state troops and this and that. I'm just going to go with Halflings. Some people just want to meme with that. And you know, that's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, you need to run your armies as much as you want to and how you want to. So yeah, plus the Moot is actually quite large here, as you can see, mostly because Sylvania is smaller. At this point, we should be getting the vampires arriving or getting ready for the Vampire Wars. And yeah, it just makes sense that it's going to be a bit smaller. Everything's looking great. The icons look beautiful, I must say. I am so happy that we're starting to see a lot more of the map being fleshed out properly. And the more they zoom out, the better it looks. Bretonnia is looking beautiful. There's so many icons there for all the different types of dukedoms. It's a bit stranger to a lot of people who might be more used to that in Total War. Keep in mind that the Warhammer Total War map actually condenses things quite a lot. So Bretonnia is actually looking proper Bretonnia size now. And I don't know, there's so much to it. There is literally so much to it, which is just making me hyped up, because Bretonnia is one of my favorite armies, if, like, more visually than anything else, because the rules for Bretonnia kind of sucked. Mind you, they didn't get an update since 6th edition, so as the editions went on, they were just getting worse and worse. So I've got big hope. I've got like a massive Bretonian army I just can't wait to play with. Musalon is looking uncorrupted at this point, which is going to be weird. Obviously, at this point, I don't think they were corrupted, or they were just starting with a corruption, but it seems that there's not a lot of threats at the moment for Bretonnia. This is coming from a lore perspective, and yeah, obviously there's the Norskins and, you know, the Wood Elves, because Orion goes on his weird rampage. And there's an orc icon there that we're going to talk about in just a bit when we start getting to the orcs. But, yeah, this is looking cool. This is looking really cool. You can already start seeing what's going to count as a major or a minor faction at this point. So I'm not sure those are going to be like the playable characters. And that's not just referring to Bretonnia. I'm like referring to everything that we can see in the world right now. But here's hoping that we will see a decent amount of characters, named characters, for each of the army books. And we'll start to actually see named characters being viable, because they really weren't in 8th edition. They really weren't. Well, Some were, but like it was really small. Anyways, if we go back to the Empire, there's an eye, and I'm not sure what that could be. The thing is, we know that there's a Chaos Gate, right, in the middle of the Empire, but it should be around the middle mountains. It's because it's in the areas of Midland, unless it's been moved, because keep in mind that retcons can happen. Retcons easily can happen, and I don't know. I honestly don't know. Thing is, we don't have all the Empire provinces in there just yet. Like, we're missing, like, Nordland. We're missing quite a few, actually. It's kind of weird. But I imagine that they're just taking their time to just add them in bit by bit. So it could be that the Chaos Gate was moved and it's just there to serve as a access point for demonic armies to arrive. Maybe this is where there's a big warband. Thing is, in the Middle Mountains, we do have, like, the whole thing with the Brass Keep. But that's not being mentioned here just yet. And this is a small map. This is likely going to be like that basic map that we're going to see in the army book and in the rule book itself, which is getting illustrated. So we're going to talk about that later, like in another day, because I really do think that we're going to get the game next year. But right now I just want to focus on the factions. That eye icon could easily just be like a Beastman Warhead, which would also make a lot of sense. At this point, wasn't it, it wasn't Kazrak, it was Gorfor. Sorry, I had to actually search that up. It's been a while since I've used the Beastman army book. It could be that. It could literally be that. If it's a Beastman icon, I mean, it looks pretty interesting. And given how big the forests are in those regions, it makes sense for Beastmen to be there, but they've gone with no context, which it's kind of frustrating, but cool at the same time because it allows for theory crafting. It's just like, I really wish I knew what that was. Albion's on the map just very, very faintly, so I'm imagining that it's going to be there. Whether or not it'll serve a purpose, we'll never know. Well, it could be that we will see some Albion-style units, possibly for a Dogs of War faction. I just don't know if they'll ever be like their own dedicated race. It would be freaking cool. Celtic warrior-style warriors would be, yeah, fun. Like, it would be different. And it would be nice to just have loads and loads of different factions, even if it's just minor lines. Like, we have that with 40k, where you've got smaller armies and stuff. It would be kind of cool. We'll talk about the elves together, because there's not really a lot to talk about. The Wood Elves have 3 locations. This is already stuff that was in lore. Really no special icons there just yet, so they'll have to be replaced with whoever is ruling, like the factions and all that type of stuff. But, you know, it's going to be the same. A lot of the elves are just going to be the same. If you're used to them in Warhammer Fantasy, if you're used to them in Total War Warhammer, like, they're all pretty old. If memory serves, and I said this in yesterday's video, only Shadowblade is like really, really young. He's about 200 years old. The rest of them are a lot older. So yeah, if you're used to like saying Teclis, Tyrion, Orion, well, Orion's an avatar, but you know what I mean? These are characters that you're likely going to see. I don't know why they're just putting a high elf icon though. I guess it's just to say, look, there's a high elven colony here, because there's a high elven ship there too. But the ship could just be, you know, just a little bit of fluff for the map, like they've put in like the sea monsters and stuff. So it could just literally be the icons there for some fluff as a trading port, because there are some high elf territories there that used to be there and then were rebuilt by the humans. Estalia is freaking massive, like so big. And the thing is, like, I don't remember it this big before. Like, we can barely see Talia at this point, but Estalia is just huge in comparison. Now, there is the running theory that I've had for a long, long time now that we're going to start to see Estalia, Talia, and Araby as its own thing, because if you go to the Border Prince territories, those areas themselves have like icons which kind of link up to them. It's very stylistic, it's very different. The iconography is different too, so it's not like they're going to be one specific race. And I feel like this is something that they might want to do just to add in more flavor. Plus, human sculpts are going to be easy to make, because human sculpts are sometimes interchangeable. You can use the base legs and then just change up the armaments and stuff like that. The basic skeleton will stay the same, so it would be really easy for them to just go, yeah, here, have Estalia, have Talia. Maybe the idea is that, or maybe it's like, well, we'll leave it as a door ajar in a sense, which is something that Warhammer always does, where they'll just say, look, these are the icons. If people are interested, if the game does well, then possibly. Which, I love the idea of that. I really do. I would absolutely love if we started to get the other human nations. We're already getting Kislev and Cathay, but there's a lot more. There's Inns, Estalia, Talia, Araby. You know, there's supposed to be humans in the Southlands too. It would be great if we could eventually see this game getting massively fleshed out with everything that we've all kind of been hoping for and just go from there. Perhaps the biggest meat and potatoes of this is going to be the World's Edge Mountains and the Badlands. You see, they've gotten a pretty big update and we're starting to see loads of dwarf icons, loads of greenskin icons. This means that they're probably ahead of schedule because we've never really had multiple races confirmed in one go. Yes, we could all make an educated guess that we were going to get all these races anyway, but they've normally done one article, go dark for a few months, another article, then go dark again. This is just like, yeah, go full ham, because we've got Tomb King icons, we've got greenskin icons, we've got dwarf icons. I am absolutely over the moon with this because it's showing that there's so much to come and we're going to be able to play with so many different things. I really hope that this means we're just going to get a massive index or a few index books. Like I remember they did the same in Warhammer 8th edition, where there were like 4 index books with, or more probably, with more different types, or with all the different types of factions, where you could then go, okay, these are baseline rules, and then when you get your eventual army book, that's where everything gets fleshed out proper. There's not much to talk about the dwarfs just now. We've got 2 different types of iconography. We've got there in Barak Var, and then obviously Karazakarak. So it's easy to say that, you know, Karazakarak is the capital, Barak Var is going to be one of the major holds. They're starting to add them in throughout the whole map if we actually look about it through there. Same thing with the greenskins. They've got 2 different types of icons, which there's the Orc one and then there's the Night Goblin one that you can tell on the northern part of the World's Edge Mountains. So you can see possibly the Crooked Moon. Yeah, that is the Crooked Moon. And up there, like, I can't read the text. Actually, there's no text, but no, there is no text. It's just one of these things where having an AI help enhance this is just frustrating. Again, Games Workshop, it's past 2004, you can do an image that's higher than 1,500 pixels. So maybe we could start to see a division between goblins and orcs, just to kind of push different playstyles more. Like, you could already do that with the orc book. The Orcs and Goblins book was just big, and you could go full goblin if you wanted to. You could go full Night Goblin if you wanted to, or standard goblin, or back in the day you could do forest goblins, and then with orcs you could go full savage orc, normal orc. So I'd love to see a bit more of a push and just separate them, make them sub-factions. That would be kind of cool. You might be wondering why there's Tomb King icons here, and that's because the Tomb Kings actually did take over a lot of territories when they were still living, known as Nehakarans. So these areas did fall under their lands too. It wasn't just Nehakara that was theirs. Mosik, etc. was just conquering a lot. So it could be quite interesting to see what type of characters awaken in these regions, because in most recent lore, we don't really have anything to know about this. Hell, there could be new units, new constructs. I know this map update isn't what people were expecting. People were wanting something else. People were wanting something more established or substantial, better yet said. But this is a lot. This is honestly a really good update. I have a massive feeling that it's going to be 2023 that we're going to see the release of the game, possibly around, you know, mid-year, maybe Warhammer Day, which is later year, but I just have a lot of hope. I'm feeling a lot more hopeful for the game now. I'm definitely feeling like something is actually happening. Let's just hope that these updates come a little bit more, but I'm hoping that we'll start to see a lot more other parts of the world, a bit more of Cathay. We don't really have too much information of that, at least a detailed map. We don't have anything in the far western portions of the map just yet. Hell, we don't even have the Southlands. But I'm really, really hoping that as updates come, I really hope it's just going to be like, eventually become a monthly thing, or, you know, every week would be great, but I doubt it. But after this update, I feel like I need to carry on painting my backlog and getting that out of the way, because it feels closer. I don't know why, but it just feels closer. Anyways, let me know what you guys think, and let me know your theories in the comments below. Let's have a bit of a discussion. It's been a while, and it's just so nice to talk about Old World again.